Hello and welcome back to TheSportsPodcast presented by the CollingsThodeNetwork. I'm your host Chris Collings, joined by
Nolan Thode.
as always. Today we have our NHL season preview for you, and if you watched the last episode, you know how our basketball season preview went, so let's just jump right into it with how we think the standings are going to shake out, or the playoffs.
Yeah, so we'll start in the East, I guess.
Yep.
Typically tends to be that way. So the Atlantic, I'll go 1 through 3.
Yeah.
Winning the Atlantic, I have the Boston Bruins. They've been really good to start the
They've
season.
been so good.
The questions going into the season were, is Bergeron, going to take a step back? What's their goaltending like? They don't have Marchand for a bit. And those questions have been, very early on answered. They're 9-1. They have Marchand back already. Bergeron's playing well. David Krejci coming out of, I don't know if he was retired, but he didn't play last season.
Out of nowhere, yeah.
And he's point per game so far. Linus Ullmark has been crazy.
Hasn't lost yet.
7-0. I don't know. I just think the Bruins are just, the best team for 82 games in that division. The second seed in the Atlantic, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. Bit of a rocky start so far. I think they're kind of figuring out everything on the back end. Goal scoring has been, there. It's the Leafs.
Yeah.
Matthews, bit of a slower start than typically.
Yeah, he's getting going, though, more lately. But
I don't know. I feel like it's a long season. You can't overreact to the first month, especially with the Leafs. They like to tease the Leafs haters that they're gonna fall out and miss the playoffs, but they have been there for the last few years. And so a home playoff series in the Atlantic.
I doubt it. I'll do a bit of overreacting to the Leafs later.
And then in the third seed in the Atlantic, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. I feel like they're a solid team. They just went to the Stanley Cup Finals for the third time in a row. Didn't win it, unfortunately, but, still a really good team.
Yep. My Atlantic, I have the 1 seed being the Panthers. I still see it. They're also one of those teams that started off slower, but just a good goaltending rotation and just a solid roster. That defense could use work, and I honestly think they will trade for pieces to make that defense work. They have the assets to move, and I could see them very easily. Not very easily, but in a close Atlantic, I could see them squeaking out with the 1.
Mm-hmm.
My 2 seed would be the Tampa Bay Lightning, grabbing home seed off the back of a monster Vasilevsky season, and it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. We know what they can do. And then my 3 seed in the Atlantic was the Boston Bruins, because again, wow, they look incredible so far, and I kind of hate it.
Yeah.
It's just everything is falling together for the Bruins. It's falling into place. All the players that they need to step up have been stepping up, and Pasta.
Yeah. No McAvoy. Hell, Hampus Lindholm, be a point per game player for us.
Yeah,
Why don't
Connor Clifton come in and have a hot start to the year, like crazy.
DeBrusk, like 8 points in 9 games.
It's just everything's
like
just fitting into place for them right now.
Yeah, I think the Bruins are, the same old Bruins. I feel like a lot of people were expecting them to take steps back, but I don't know. I still see them as a solid team. Moving on to the Metro, I have the top team in the Metro being the Rangers. They're just a very solid team, good offense, good defense, and Igor Shesterkin in net. Can't really complain. He's going to
top 3 goalie for sure.
He's Halak's the backup, so not as good as Georgiev was last year.
I'd argue
for
it's
them,
similar.
But Halak's still a serviceable backup. I think that'll result in Igor playing more games than he did last year, which can't complain about.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not a bad thing.
That he gives them the best chance to win. Good team. I don't know. I think the Rangers are going to win the Metro. And it's going to be a close race with the second team in the Metro, which is the Hurricanes. I think it's either one of those two teams. I think they're kind of, I don't know, no offense to the other teams in the Metro, in a bit of a tier of their own, I think. I think they're the 2 best teams, and it's going to come down to them. I think, good start to the season. I like Brent Burns' addition. I think Pacioretty will be good late in season when he does come back. Is Freddie going to be healthy the whole year is a question mark around them, but, I still think they got a good enough decor where even if Antti Ranta's in net or, that emergency guy they had to bring into the playoffs last year, whoever it is, I still like the Hurricanes' chances, each and every night.
Such a deep roster.
The third seed in the Metro, I have, despite a little bit of a shaky start, the Pittsburgh Penguins. I just feel like they're the third best team in this division. Crosby, Malkin, Letang, the longest tenured 3 teammates in sports history, I think. I could be wrong in saying that, but I think in consecutive seasons, those 3 being on the same roster is a sports record, not just NHL. So they've played together.
Big four sports.
Big four sports.
Yeah,
for
soccer
sure.
players, they keep their units together.
That's true. But yeah, a team that's been together for a while. Gensel, great as well. Ricard Raquel's great start to the season. I think he's a good addition to that top 6, something that they needed. Rust solid, Tristan Jarry solid. I don't know. I like John Marino, so trading him to the Devils, we'll see how that shapes out. They did bring in Ty Smith.
Yeah, I really like Ty Smith, so I really like having
gives them
that
more
addition.
of an offensive edge. I just feel like if there's going to be faults with the Penguins game, it's going to be them kind of not playing as well defensively as they can. So.
That or them just not playing up to their opponents and just not matching their level. My Metro, I had Hurricanes 1 because, again, they're so deep, they're so talented. I pick them to be my 1 in the Metro every single year just because they always have that potential.
Yeah.
And then my 2 was the Rangers. Again, they're in a tier of their own. They really are. There's no other teams in the Metro that I think you can even sniff those 2 teams. They're just so good right now. They're just great rosters and great goaltending. And then my 3 seed, the Islanders. Despite last season, not being as good, it looks like they might be having a return to form, and Sorokin is just gonna be that guy for them. He's the rock of that team.
Yeah, I agree. They were my first wild card. I have the Islanders. I think jumping back into the playoffs is my expectation for them. I think a solid defensive team. They're very well built where they can win games. Not having They're the opposite of the Leafs and the Oilers, where
They really are.
They can win games 2-1, 3-2, and that they can do that on a consistent basis. And Ilya Sorokin, he's a brick wall in net. Varlamov good as well. I think it's probably the best tandem in the league. You could argue. I'm trying to think in terms of 2-man teams. I feel like it's hard to stack up against that. So when you have a team that is already committed to a defensive mindset and you put them with good goalies, they're going to be a really hard team to beat on a lot of nights. So I really like the Islanders.
Yeah, the occasional forward that can chip in a goal.
So they're my wild card 1.
My wild card 1 was the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a mid team this year. They're not bad. They're not bad, but I don't see them in the same group as all the other good teams. If there is ever a team that I could point to that is just the epitome of mid, it's this Leafs team. They don't blow my socks off. They're not great. They're good. They're fine. But they're not bad. They shouldn't lose to bad teams, but they have already.
Yeah.
But they should be able to compete with the top teams. It's just stacking up in a 7-game series against every other playoff team. I'd take every other playoff team over this Leafs core.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Leafs, it's hard to have a very consistent regular season just because there's so much pressure on the Leafs. So many, media outlets trying to, pick apart the team, talk about who's getting fired next, who's getting traded next. I think it's a very hard place to play, and I think, if they do slip to the wild card, I think, we'll see it get to them. And I don't know. I feel like the Leafs were the favorite to come out of the East. I think Vegas odds wise, they were the favorite to come out of the East at the start of the year. I definitely wouldn't peg them as that now.
I don't think they ever should have been that team with this goalie tandem. I mean, Samsonov has been great so far. He's been really good, but it's just when you look at other teams and their goalies, it doesn't stack up as well, and then who knows what Matt Murray is going to be.
Yeah, I think the Leafs, when you look at their roster, who did they bring in? Did they bring in any key pieces, like not goalies?
Yeah, they brought in. So the big things for the Leafs this year was to cement the bottom 6 more. They brought in Zach Aston-Reese from the Penguins, Abdul Kubel from the
depth pieces I like.
Kalle Yarncrook.
True,
but it's just okay. Number one thing about the Leafs, and this is definitely a early season gripe I have just with this team, is the handling of Robertson. Mm-hmm. They're not playing him. They didn't play him a few times now. He played great in the few times that he's actually seen the ice, and it it baffles me that Pierre Engvall continues to get these chances and continues to get ice time as a third or fourth line guy when Robertson is there. He's skilled, he's a good forward, he can do more on the ice, and he would contribute way more to winning games. It baffles me that the Leafs still make the decisions that they make, and it contributes to them continuing to be mid. Engvall is a worse Mikheyev, and now Mikheyev is gone.
Yeah, I saw a tweet saying with Robertson, not being able to get consistent minutes, they looked at another former Leaf, Mason Marchment. Just kind of another example of a mishandling of a player who's now, found success in Florida and then, got a good contract in Dallas, and he's been good to start the season there. So, if the Leafs mismanage Robertson, could it be another, borderline star player that's off their hands that, they could be using? I don't know. I think Leafs fans, if you asked any single one of them if they could have Mason Marchment on their roster right now, they would definitely take him. He's the kind of player that they need. Yeah, I don't know. Lots of questions around the Leafs always.
They mishandle prospects, and they're mishandling this one.
Yeah. My wild card 2 was the Florida Panthers. I don't know. They're just... I think they're a playoff team still. I think some people were taking them to miss the playoffs. I don't agree with that at all. I think Barkov, he's had a bit of a sluggish start. I think he turns it around. Matt Tkachuk has looked very nice in a Panthers uniform. Good goal. Bobrovsky, Knight, maybe you could say they're the best tandem if that is you're getting the good Sergei Bobrovsky and the good Spencer Knight. Losing Ekblad is going to be tough. A little bit of an injury there. We'll see how long he stays on the IR. Brandon Montour's stepped up in his shoes so far. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Panthers still a playoff team. They'll be in the wild card race, but not to say wild card 2, 90 points got in just because 8 teams need to be there. I think they're close up there with the Lightning, Leafs, Bruins. I think it'll be a close Atlantic. I think it'll be a close East overall.
Yeah, I agree, and especially the Atlantic. The Atlantic has become the central of the East. It's just so tight every year. It looks like. My 8 seed was the Penguins. My wild card 2. It's just like, I see them as the Leafs. They're very similar teams, and they have very similar trajectories for this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. So now moving on to the West. In the Pacific Division, I have them as the 1 seed, the Vegas Golden Knights.
Golden Knights.
I wouldn't have thought I would be saying this before the season started because there was questions around their goaltending. However, that has all been shut up. Logan Thompson has been, I think he's 5-2 this season. Yeah, Logan Thompson's 5-2 this season with a .938 and a 1.73, and Aiden Hill's, surprisingly even better with 4-0, 940 and a 1.72 goals against average. I think if they can keep playing like that, I don't know. I feel like this Knights team has kind of got their identity figured out. Last year was a bit of a weird year.
Last year was a growth year.
I talked about it in our NBA preview with kind of Harden coming in mid-season to the Sixers and, finding success, but I feel like a full season of Jack Eichel on the Vegas Golden Knights is going to be very good for them.
It's going to be so good.
Him, Stevenson, and Stone has been a good line, and I really like that because it allows the OG, Misfits line of Riley Smith, William Karlsson, and Marchessault to reunite, and they've been great. Petrangelo, Theodore also been great. I don't know.
And they have Leonard on their IR, who, again, another great goalie that you can add to this team. I don't know how he fits in once he comes back, and he could honestly lose out that spot to both those guys just because that's how good Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson have been playing.
Mm-hmm. The 2nd seed in the Pacific, I have the Calgary Flames. I just feel like they're a really good regular season team. Both the roster and just what the Flames have been the last few years. Daryl Sutter, good coach. Bring in Huberdeau, Weegar, I like it. Losing Tkachuk and Goudreau, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. People are loving the Flames a little too much in their offseason moves. I still think losing Goudreau, pretty much your superstar for the last 10 years, and getting nothing for him, and then Matt Tkachuk is I feel like he's a player that you kind of need. I don't know. I thought they could have built around him more than they did. Obviously, Huberdeau's a great player, but he's been, more of a complimentary player in his career, and now he's kind of, going to have to prove himself as that number 1 guy because, they're putting a lot in him, a lot of faith in him.
I mean,
So,
they put a lot of stock into that trade.
Yeah, so we'll see. Calgary Flames I have in second, and then I have the Oilers in third. You could argue them 1 or 2. It's just I'm an Oilers fan, so I like to temper expectations. We're on a 5-game win streak right now, but I also know that's going to come with a mid-season 7-game losing streak. It's an up and down team, and I don't know. I feel like putting them top 2 in the Pacific. I don't know. I just couldn't put them over the Flames or Golden Knights, who I feel like are going to both have really good regular seasons.
As not an Oilers fan, and as a Leafs fan who loves the NHL, I have the Oilers finishing first in that division. This team looks so good. It looks like they're just going to be able to score every night, and if Stuart Skinner can come in and be that guy for them, I see no reason why they can't be that team, and Jack Campbell as well, which, again, it's another team with, wow, that tandem once they both get hot and get going.
I fully agree with that. I think the question marks around Jack Campbell going into the season was, what is he? What kind of Jack Campbell are we going to get? And people were kind of like pushing away Stuart Skinner as an afterthought, like, oh, Campbell's going to have to play 70 games. But now, I don't know. Stuart Skinner has proven himself to be very solid. He could get 30 starts this year, allowing Campbell to, figure out his game, figure out life in Edmonton a little bit, give himself some time and hopefully be ready for the playoffs, because I believe, he's the guy we're paying. He's probably the guy we're playing in game 1.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, depending on how Stuart Skinner does, because, I mean, if Stuart Skinner can continue to lead the league in, like, goals against average or whatever he's been doing.
He's been great.
He's been great. It's been awesome to see, and the Oilers finally get that guy that they've needed, it feels like. My 2 seed was the Flames. For every reason you said, they're such a good regular season team all the time. Losing a bit of their identity, losing Gaudreau, but, gaining Hubie, who's a secondary piece, gaining Kadri, who's going to be a really big addition for them down the stretch. It's just, they're just pegged for second seed. That's what it feels like. And then my 3 seed was the Golden Knights, for all the same reasons you said. It feels like this is the year for the Golden Knights to really put it together.
Yeah.
And end up being part of that top 3.
They're beating expectations. I think really good for their organization was them kind of having a down year, because they were expected success early on just because of their first season, and I don't know, they were kind of like forced to just keep being competitive and not really like mess with the formula too much. But I feel like a bit of an off season, you kind of have to reevaluate the team, and I feel like the team that they've iced this season has proven me wrong, and I don't know, looks to keep proving me wrong. If we had done this video a month ago, I probably wouldn't have even had Vegas in the playoffs, just because of the questions around their goaltending. But
I know I didn't.
They've answered that, and I don't know. I feel like Vegas is destined for another successful regular season.
Eichel is playing so good. I could honestly see Eichel put up 90 to 100 points this year.
Yeah, he's been so good. Point per game so far, or above point per game. He's got 5 goals, I think. He's their leading goal scorer, I think. So a bit of a scoring by committee there, and so I like Vegas. Moving on to the Central, I have the Avalanche as the 1 seed. They're not there right now, but it's a long season, and they're the Avalanche. I think Georgiev has come over from New York and been that starter that they needed him to be. I think he's won that job, and he's been solid. And they don't have Landeskog right now. He'll come back, and he's the captain. So I think when you have your captain out, the team's just missing something. But Cale Makar, superstar.
McKinnon,
superstar.
Rantanen, superstar. It's
great team.
Such a good team.
Best team in the Central.
Yep.
And then 2nd seed in the Central, I have the Minnesota Wild. I think Fleury needs to kind of tighten up a little bit more, but I believe he will. And I don't know. I just like this Wild team. I think the past few years they've had really good teams. It's just kind of been like they're having this record with who? They're Jordan Greenway on the first line, you know what I mean? Like Marcus Foligno, like Ryan Hartman, kind of weird guys. And I feel like what kind of prevented me from believing them so much was them having like the actual like star and like, talent on their roster. Obviously they have Kaprizov, but now I think with guys like Boldy coming up, Kalen Addison, rookie defenseman, I feel like now Minnesota has a little bit more of like a fast, young, exciting team that is able to, be competitive in the modern day NHL, and I like Minnesota. In the 3 seed, I have the St. Louis Blues. They started 3-0, and then they've lost 5 straight. I don't expect, losing to continue that much for the Blues. I think they've got a good roster. They've got guys like Ryan O'Reilly, who's maybe underperforming a little bit. He wants to step up. I think the Blues will find their way into that top 3.
Yep, funny enough, my Central is Avs Wild Blues for all the same reasons. It just like those are the teams to beat in that division.
Mm-hmm. And then going on to the wild cards in the West, my wild card 1 is the Dallas Stars. I don't
My
know.
wild card 1 is also the Dallas Stars.
I feel like lots of questions were around Dallas going into the year. Robertson wasn't signed leading up to the start, but now he's signed, and I don't know. They look like a good team. I think Marchment bringing in him, he's been a great top 6 forward. Wyatt Johnson, the rookie, having a great year. Shout out Pagcast. Jake Ottinger playing lights out. Bit of an injury scare. I don't think he's out too long or out at all.
No, I think it was like a week maybe.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think Dallas is going to be a wild card team in the West. Whether it's 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter too much, but I have Dallas there.
Yep, they're a very solid team still. They're the same team. I think basically this team depends on how Sagan and Ben play. I think that's just how far this Stars team will go is how good they'll be.
Mm-hmm. Wild card 2, I don't know. I
This,
feel like
this is the most open spot, I think.
We might have different answers, or I think I know who you have.
Yeah.
I have the Winnipeg Jets, just because, I don't know, the Hellebuck I've seen this season is kind of the Hellebuck I expect to see. I feel like they're a little bit better defensively, which has been their issue. Scheifele's been solid. I think he missed a good amount of last year, so having him for the full year is huge. Cole Perfetti is stepping in. I think we're only seeing glimpses of what he can be. I think he's going to, by season's end, be a consistent, scoring forward. Right now, he kind of, has a play every few games where you kind of get that glimpse of, this guy, has the talent. So I don't know. I do like the Jets. I just feel like, I don't know, the last wild card in the West is really up for grabs, and I don't know. I have them taking it just because I feel like Hellebuck still has a Vezina caliber year potentially still left in him.
Yeah, it's a good bet. My second wild card was between 3 teams. It was between the Kings, Canucks, and the Jets. And I actually had the Kings making it of those 3 teams. I just really like their top 6. I really like the defensive additions they've had with, Dursey coming in, and he's been really good. Wish the Leafs never gave him up. And then Drew Doughty still continuing to be good, even into his older age seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the Kings. They just have a solid top 6, and I just like the consistency that I think that group will have, especially adding Kevin Fiala.
Yeah, I think another team that could push for that is the Predators.
Oh, yes.
They were in there
Predators
last year. If we did this before the season started, I'd probably have them in the playoffs, but I don't know. They've just been a little weird to start the season. I feel like their offense last year was great. They had one of the best power plays in the league. Roman Josi obviously having like a crazy
100-point year,
100-point year essentially. But I don't know. I feel like Saros isn't playing as good as he was last year, and the team as a whole isn't playing as good as they were last year. I see them outside looking in. And now for playoff matchups. In the first round in the East, I have the 1 seed overall in the East, the New York Rangers, versus the wildcard 2 Panthers, and I have the Rangers taking that in 6.
I have my number 1 seed in the East, Hurricanes, facing the second wildcard Penguins, and I have the Hurricanes taking that one.
Mm-hmm. I have the 2nd seed in the East, or the 1st seed in the Atlantic, I guess, Bruins. They play the wildcard 1 New York Islanders, which, I don't know, it's not the best matchup for the Bruins, but I still do have them taking it. But that series does go the distance. I say 7 games.
Yep. Mine is the number 1 seed in the Atlantic Panthers versus the Leafs, barn burner versus series. And the Leafs lose again. I can't do it. I can't pull the trigger. It's now, I think, going to be the goaltending and defense is the issue. Mm-hmm. The Leafs really need to make a move for a defenseman who will be just... I don't know exactly what they need on the point, but they don't need Muzzin and they don't need Hall.
Someone who just... the forwards and the goalie are allowed to play more confidently and just feel safer on the ice.
Exactly. This Leafs team, its identity, it's kind of lost this year because none of the players are playing with confidence, it feels like.
Yeah, it's kind of like, the forwards are hesitant to, put too much on offense because, a little bad turnover is going to screw him over with Justin Hall, protecting
it's
the
just,
other way.
And it's like, if I was a forward on that team, my goaltending situation and my defensive situation would not give me hope. And if I was a defenseman, the goalies would scare me. If I was a goalie, the forwards and defense would scare me. It's not a confident group. And I feel like in the playoffs, while being talented means something, being confident and working as a unit means more.
Yeah. Going on to my Leafs series, I have them playing the Lightning, rematch of last year, and same results in terms of number of games. However, the Leafs finally win their Game 7 and first playoff series since 2004. The Leafs win and advance to the second round.
I'd love to see it.
To play the Bruins, if you're following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, we'll see how that goes if we get there. But, no, and then my series is Bruins versus Lightning, which I think is a very good series. A series that we've seen before with these two teams. And I have the Lightning going over. Did I say my Panthers-Penguins pick?
What? You had Hurricanes, Penguins.
Oh, yeah.
You had Hurricanes over Penguins, and then you had Panthers over Leafs.
Yeah.
Yep. Next, I have the Hurricanes and the Penguins. I have that series going 6 games, a little bit of an upset. I say the Penguins take it. I don't know what it is. I just feel like we keep seeing the Pens lose in the first round, and I don't know. A part of me just thinks Crosby's going to win another series in his career. There's no way the Penguins are a first-round exit team until he retires. So, sooner or later, they're going to win one in the first round, and here it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just something about the team. I feel like the Hurricanes offense. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't match well against the Penguins. I feel like they're there step for step in terms of like the star talent. I think the Penguins have more star talent. Both good defensive cores, and then I don't know. I really like Tristan Jarry. I think he gets overlooked as a really good netminder because I don't know. People think he plays for the Penguins. He's the Penguins goalie because maybe in the last 10 to 15 years we've come accustomed to just the Penguins being a good team, but I think Jarry could be the reason the Penguins have not missed the playoffs in the last 2 to 3 years. He's kept them in it, and I think he has a good series and outduels Freddie, Ranta, whoever's in net for the Hurricanes.
Yeah. My series, I got Hurricanes versus Rangers in the second round, and I actually have the Rangers going over, and it might be a lot of repeat of what we saw in this last offseason. But yeah, I like this Rangers group a lot.
So you have Rangers over Islanders then?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Rangers over Islanders in that series.
Battle of New York.
Yep, Battle of New York for the first round. Very exciting. Just this Rangers team looks really good, and they match up way too good against the against this Islanders team.
Yeah, they have the core defensively that the Islanders have in terms of like solidity and that elite goalie in net. So I think it comes down to offense in that series, and I think the Rangers have a lot more capability of scoring than the Islanders. So I'll agree with you there. Well, I guess so second round should we do full East and then full West?
Yeah, we'll do full East, full West.
Okay, so then I have in the second round the Rangers defeating the Penguins in 5. I feel like the Rangers are gonna be grinning ear to ear, not having to play the Hurricanes in the second round, getting the Penguins off of their upset, and I don't know. I just feel like this Rangers team, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and I expect them to be there again.
Yep. And then, as I was saying before, Rangers Hurricanes for me in the second round, and I have the Rangers going over. Igor's just going to be lights out, and this Rangers team looks like it can score goals when it needs to, and if we could see some of their younger pieces step up even more, I see no reason this Rangers team can't go deep.
Yeah. Then I have the Leafs and the Bruins, and that series goes 7 as well, and in Game 7, the Leafs finally beat the Boston Bruins.
Wow.
Leafs going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I got a little bit of a run for them. We'll see. I think Curtis, completely disagrees with having them going that deep in the playoffs, but I don't know. I feel like it's just we're a little harsh on our own teams, whereas Curtis has Oilers as the 1 seed in the Pacific.
Yeah, and
I have the Leafs making the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I can't see it just because of what I've seen so far this year and what I've seen every single year of my life pretty much. It's just I don't know if they can. If you know, in all honesty, if they could do it, this would be the year to do it, just because of how weird it would be. And their goaltending situation being so weird, it could just.
Yeah, I don't like the Leafs goalies at all.
They could weird their way in. I think the goalies make a trade for a goalie, but
I think they should make a trade for a goalie. I don't know. You can see like people look at the Avalanche and they're like, oh, the Avalanche won it with Darcy Kemper. Like, you can win with a bad goalie. Kemper's still a really good goalie. I still think that
he's better than both the
Samsonov and Murray. So I don't think either of them are Stanley Cup winning goalie, but maybe good enough to win a round or two. Well, anymore. Matt Murray is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah. But, my second round matchup for the Atlantic is the Panthers versus the Lightning, which we've seen before. And we've seen this outcome before, the Lightning go over. It's just, the Panthers D, unless they make a trade, is just not a playoff D. It's not a playoff winning D, and while they might be able to get around, they're not going to advance further than that.
Yep. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, I have the Rangers putting an end to the Leafs' miracle run, and the Rangers advance to the Cup Final. I don't know. I like this team to come out of the East. I feel like the Atlantic first and second round is a little more of a bloodbath than the Metro is. I feel like the Rangers not having to face, the Lightning Bruins until the Eastern Conference Finals, if they do, where, they end up not having to because the Leafs are there. I don't know. I feel like it plays to their advantage, and Igor is good enough to play it night in, night out. I don't think, him managing starts is an issue or anything like that. He's that guy.
Yep, and then my matchup is Rangers versus Lightning, and I have the Rangers winning it this year, advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals on the back of Igor, and I really think that'll end up being a goaltending duel more than anything else, and I think Igor will squeak it out, even though I love Vaz, and I still think he's the best goalie in the league.
Yeah. That's our East, I think. I don't know. It should be an interesting playoffs once we get there. Obviously, the teams could be a little bit different, but I feel like in terms of who can actually come out of the East, there's only a few teams that you see there. Moving on to the West, I have the overall 1 seed in the West, Golden Knights. Beating the Jets, a matchup of the Eastern rematch of the Western Conference Finals in 2018, and the same result. I think it was a 5-game series. They could have Leonard back by then, so, an even better starter, hypothetically on paper, than what they have now. But, Logan Thompson's been playing great, Hill as well. So, I don't know. I just see the Golden Knights making the playoffs, and I don't think either of the wildcard teams would beat them.
Yeah, that's fair. My 1 seed was the Avalanche, and they're going over the Kings. It's just... Yeah. I mean, that one, it's like, what was that, Daryl Sutter, or whoever said it last year? Sutter, yeah. And he said, whenever you go, that's a waste of 8 days. You're going to get swept.
Yeah. Anyone who's facing them in the first round, I have them playing the Stars in the first round.
I have them versus the Kings, and I have the Avs sweeping the Kings.
And I have it a 5-game series. I'll let Dallas squeak one out, maybe at home,
maybe an Ottinger steals a game.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I don't know. I feel like the Stars and Avalanche... They met in the playoffs in the bubble. That's where the Stars beat them, which is kind of odd.
To advance.
I don't know. That was the year that Dallas came out of the West. But yeah, I don't know. 5-game series.
Yep.
Not much to talk about there. I think the Avalanche are just the better team.
And then mine is Oilers versus Stars, and I have the Oilers coming out of that just because, again, Oilers are a better team. That one in 6, though. I think Ottinger steals 2 games from the Oilers. And the Oilers are prone to doing that.
Yeah. No, I think for sure. I have the Oilers beating the Flames in the Battle of Alberta 4-2, so they win at home ice. I don't know. I just like the Oilers in the playoffs better than the Flames. Weirdly, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like losing Kachuk, like they did bring in Kadri. Bringing in Kadri was huge because he's that, like, kind of bruiser guy, will get a black eye for the team type of guy. But I don't know. Still, I think they just lack something that, I don't know. I just have the Oilers over them. I'm a big Oilers fan, so go Oilers.
Mine is the Flames and Golden Knights, and I have the Golden Knights advancing. I love their goaltending so far.
I'd really like to see that series.
That'd be a great series. Flames are now apparently prone to choking in the playoffs, so we'll see what the new additions do. But I just really like the way this Golden Knights team looks on paper, and I really like the way that they're gelling so far this season. It feels like if this is the year to do it, this is their year. Like, to actually like put something together.
Mm-hmm. And then I have the Wild over the St. Louis Blues in the Central. It's a 7-game series. I don't know. I like
the exact same thing.
In a playoff game or in a playoff series, Fleury versus Binnington. I don't know. I feel like Fleury comes out on top in Game 7, and Wild, they'll have the home ice in Game 7. So I don't know. I just see it going that way.
Yep, I've it the exact same way. Wild over Blues. It's a good matchup. It's the two teams that are below the Avalanche and above everyone else in the Central.
Yeah, and then in the next round, I have the Golden Knights versus the Oilers. I have the Oilers winning in 6 games. I just feel like you got to get the Oilers in round 1, or else they're scary in round 2. Just because McDavid and Draisaitl, right now they're both above 2 points per game on the season, and they can do that in the playoffs too. It's not just a regular season. Last year they both had crazy years, and I just feel like it's going to carry in. And McDavid versus Eichel, that'll be a very fun headline, good matchup. I just feel like, I don't know, there's something about this Oilers team. This is definitely the best Oilers team that's been constructed in my fandom, and they have all the pieces in terms of offense, like depth scoring. Outside of McDavid and Draisaitl, they have 3 other guys who are 5+ goals so far in 10 games. So we have 5 guys on pace for 40-goal seasons. Obviously, that won't carry on, but Hyman, Evander Kane, and Nuge have all been putting in their work, and I like the blue line a lot too, more than a lot do. I think Nurse and Bouchard are both guys who can eat minutes in the playoffs. They're kind of like those guys that you will leave out there on the ice. Tyson Barrie, I don't have much to say about him. I wish we traded him in the offseason. I hope he gets traded sometime mid-season. Brett Kulak, though, I really like. Good sound defensive guy. Cody Ceci has had a career kind of resurgence in Edmonton. What looked like overpay in free agency is a good top 4 serviceable defenseman. And then I feel like Campbell could get hot at the right time, and that'll be scary for the rest of the league.
Yeah, mine is also the Oilers versus Golden Knights, and that's just really a case of who's hot at what time. But for me, I have the Golden Knights going over. I love this roster, and I think Eichel might actually get one over on McDavid here in this series.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see. Just like if you're an Eichel fan, obviously Eichel, not for me as an Oilers fan.
Sabres fans might be also a little mad.
Yeah, but it's just something that Eichel really hasn't had a whole lot to grab onto throughout his career. So having that kind of statement victory, I think
it'd be huge.
I think it'd be big for his career moving forward in trying to be a Hall of Famer one day. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then in the Western, I have the Avalanche beating the Wild in 7. I think
7 games,
2 straight 7-game series for the Wild. I think they fall to the Avalanche. I like how they match up. I feel like we were robbed of seeing this in the playoffs last year with Minnesota and Colorado. I just really want to see the series because one of my fondest memories being a young hockey fan was, I'm not sure what playoff year it was specifically, but it was the Avalanche versus the Wild. They went to 7 games, and Nino Niederreiter scored the OT winner. That was like the Avalanche with very young McKinnon, like Stastny and stuff like that. So it would just bring back a little nostalgia value for that sake, and I think it would just be a really good matchup. And I feel like the Avalanche playing the Stars in round 1, bit of a, not to say cakewalk, but it's an easy series for them. But I feel like playing the Wild in round 2 will be a good test to see if the Avalanche really have what it takes to go back to back.
Yeah, it really will. I have the same series, and I have the Avs going over. Less games. I don't really have a number in my head for what I think that game would be, or for what I think that series would be, but I definitely think the Avs just looked so prime, especially if they get or especially once Landeskog is back. It just looks like such a good team, such a good roster, and we've seen it last year. It's just like, how do you put together a game plan to beat them?
Yeah. You just gotta hope you get lucky, honestly, against the Avalanche, just because, if it's gonna come down to skill, I don't think, anyone really can compete with them too much.
I guess in all honesty, in my opinion, that that series comes down to how many mistakes Gorgiev makes. And if he can limit mistakes and just play a sound game.
If Fleury can be, crazy playoff Fleury, then who knows? Maybe they pull off the upset, but I just feel like it's hard to bet against the Avs.
Yeah, I think that's what that series really comes down to.
And then the Western Conference Finals, a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals, Avalanche Oilers. Different result. However, last year it was the Avalanche sweeping the Oilers, and now I've got the Oilers taking 2 games. Avalanche in 6. I just feel like, I don't know. Colorado needs to lose something for Edmonton to be able to compete with them. I just feel like Edmonton doesn't match up super well against them because they can exploit other teams, like the Flames, like the Kings, with their speed because they don't have as much of that. But, the Avalanche, have every single bit of speed as the Oilers do,
Yeah.
if not more. When you look at their back end, Makar, Byram, Tage, Girard, like they've got guys who can move the puck from end to end, and I feel like that's something that is gonna put them over the top.
Yeah, just like thinking about all the matchups with this Avs team, because I have Avs Golden Knights. It's just like I wanted to pick the Golden Knights so bad, but I can't. I can't do it because this Avs team is too good right now.
Yeah. And then we both have the same Stanley Cup final matchup with the Avalanche and Rangers.
Yeah.
Curious to see if we have the same result. Either going 6 games with the Avalanche claiming their second cup in the last 2 years, going back to back. And if they go back to back this year, I might start getting flashbacks of the Warriors in the mid 2010s. Are they going to win it every year?
Yeah, or the Lightning from what we've seen.
It's true. But yeah, to go from a repeat champion, it would be kind of poetic in a way because the Avalanche beat the Lightning last year. To go from one repeat champion to another, I think it's definitely something we could see. And I just if I'm a betting man, Colorado is the only team that I feel like I would 100% feel safe putting my money on right now.
I agree.
And I feel like the questions around them last year were can they get it done in the playoffs? And they didn't get past round 2 until last year, which a lot of people looked as a criticism. But once a team does it once, I can envision it happening again and again. It was the same thing with the Milwaukee Bucks, a few years ago.
Same thing with
they
Washington.
couldn't get into the Stanley Cup final or the NBA finals, the Milwaukee Bucks, but once they did, now it's not hard to see the Bucks, winning another championship, which is a prediction that I have. So yeah, I have the Avalanche going back to back.
I also have the Avalanche going back to back. Mine's in 7 just because I like this Rangers core, and I think this is one of the better matchups, just like head to head. But the Rangers are just still a few pieces behind, and that's how the series is going to end.
Yeah, and it'll be a very good goalie matchup as it's the Rangers tandem from last year. It's Georgiev versus Igor. I feel like it'll be nice for Georgiev to get that win over his former starter. So with his own team, I feel like Georgiev a lot to prove, but he's done it so far in the regular season from what we've seen, and I think if they could do it with Kemper and Francouz at times last year, I feel like they're definitely going to be able to 2 years, 2 cups, 2 goalies. I don't know. Yeah. The Avalanche just a good enough roster that it doesn't really matter too much who's in net, but they still do have a solid guy back there.
Yeah, good enough roster, and just the defense. It's just so solid. They limit their team's shot attempts and just everything like that, where it doesn't really make me scared about who's in net. And that's really why I say it's about the mistakes that are made by the goalies, and it's just not about how good they play. It's just about how many mistakes they limit.
Yeah, and then for the Conn Smythe, last year was Cale Makar. I feel like just maybe voters' fatigue. Also, just a safe bet. Nathan McKinnon, I think, takes the Conn Smythe. He's going to have a great playoffs. And, as a result, he gets that trophy.
For me, it's Rantanen because all the pressure is going to be on either
I can see him having a huge postseason.
Yeah, it's either Makar is going to have a lot of pressure to repeat Conn Smythe, and McKinnon is going to have a lot of pressure to get his first. I think Rantanen is going to play the most, I don't want to say carefree, but he's going to play the most fluid game, and he's going to put up all the points, and he's just not going to have all these mental blocks that maybe the other Colorado players will have just personally, because, as a team, hard to bet against them.
Yeah. And then now going on to the year-end awards. I guess this isn't a year-end award, but the President's Trophy, the number 1 overall team in the regular season, I have the Rangers, so they're breaking the curse a little bit by making it all the way to the finals. However, they do lose. I just feel like over 82 games in the division they're in, they get to play, Columbus a lot. They get to play Philadelphia a lot.
The Devils.
Devils have, 7-3 start to the season.
But... Flyers are...
yeah, exactly. It's
small sample size.
Small sample size. I just, like the Rangers, and with Igor, hard team to beat night in, night out when you got a guy like that. protecting your crease.
Mine is the Hurricanes in the Metro, so we both have a Metro team winning it, and I love this roster so much. I love their defense. I love if Freddie Anderson can play a full season, he could be a President's Trophy winning goalie.
Jack Adams for Coach of the Year. I have Mike Sullivan of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I just feel like, especially right now, they're in a bit of like a, what's happening to the Penguins type of thing. And if they can turn things around, be that 3 seed in the Metro, I feel like there's not enough, I don't know. You could maybe point to the Bruins coach since they fired Bruce Cassidy. I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago. You could even say Bruce Cassidy for the Vegas Golden Knights. Lots of candidates. I don't know. I just feel like Mike Sullivan, he's known as he's well known as a good coach, and he gets the hardware for it this year.
Yeah, mine is Jay Woodcroft. I just think with the Oilers and what he's been able to do with them and reshaping the
he's been my favorite Oilers coach that we've had, and
yeah,
I mean when you put him up to Ken Hitchcock, Todd McClellan and Dallas Eakins, it's easy to see why I would like Woodcroft, but I think the difference between the team under Tippett last season and the difference between and Woodcroft last season was immense, and I think that's more of the team that we're going to see this season.
And that's enough for me to put him as Coach of the Year.
Yeah, and if you have him as top of the Pacific, I think for sure he's a good bet.
Exactly.
I had a pick for GM of the Year just because I feel like the media likes to kind of. I don't know. They love the Flames off season, even though I feel like it wasn't as good as people think. But yeah, Brad Treliving, if they're the 2nd seed in the Pacific, I can see him being their moves they made, they lost their big star talent. I mean, they didn't have to lose Mike Kachuk, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like
I could see him winning it too. It's just because of all the assets he got to with that deal as well. I don't know. I didn't have one written down for that, but I could very easily see it going to him too, because that's the team I think that made the biggest move that will continue to be good out of every team that made a large move.
Yeah. Calder, I have Logan Thompson, the goalie for the Vegas Golden Knights. People forget he's a rookie. He's Calder eligible. We saw Binnington win it a few years ago. And if he's going to continue to be the, 60-40 starter in Vegas, maybe even more if Hill starts to slip back a bit, I think Logan Thompson is the starter as of now. And if they're the 1 seed in the Pacific, I don't know how you couldn't give it to him. I think it's kind of sad that I feel like prospects in terms of forwards and defensemen are taking a little longer to adjust to the NHL game. We've seen in the last few years. It's really hasn't been the number 1 pick, number 2 pick come in, step in, and they're a superstar right away. And I don't know who it would be, forward wise. I feel like it's a toss up between a few people, Perfetti, Beniers, even Owen Power on the back end. I don't know. I just like Logan Thompson.
Yeah, mine went to Beniers just because of the offensive upside he's able to bring and how much the voters love offense.
Yeah.
So he's my pick for that, but it could very easily go to Logan Thompson if he continues to have a stellar season.
Mm-hmm. For the Norris Trophy, so for Defenseman of the Year, something to note, right now the Sabres are 7-3 and Dahlin is 2nd in defense scoring. He set a record for consecutive games to start a season with a goal. I think it was 4 or 5. Wow. But yeah, I think if the Sabres are somehow able to make the playoffs, I would give Dahlin the Norris, but I don't see them making the playoffs, so I have Victor Hedman of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's only won it once in his career. I think he'll be, top 5 in defense points, and they lost McDonough, so he's probably going to eat more minutes than he,
usually
would.
Does, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Victor Hedman, just a safe bet,
Yeah, for me, looking at the defensemen, it's really a 3-man race between Hedman, Makar, and Yossi. They're just, they just really are head and shoulders above everyone else. Except Dahlin so far this season, who's been so hot. And
shout out Erik Karlsson with 9 goals.
Crazy.
2nd in the league so far.
But I have Makar winning it back-to-back. He won it last year. So back-to-back for Makar. If he could put up anywhere close to 30 goals again like he did last year, he put up, I think, 28. Then it's his award to lose.
For the Vezina, I have Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders. I just feel like we kind of know what Igor brings to the table. I feel like it's just going to be the case of, the Islanders are going to be a good team. They make the playoffs, and I don't know. A lot of that's going to be credited towards Sorokin, where, last year, a lot of the credit of the Rangers went towards, Igor. He was a Hart candidate, I believe. I feel like their offense and the rest of their team is more recognized than the Islanders is. I don't know. Sorokin's been putting up crazy numbers so far. I think that continues.
Yep, for me, it is Vasilevsky, which could be one of his final Vezina awards of his career, as he's starting to age more and more. And goalies stay good as they're older, but I think that he'll win his final Vezina this year, and then we'll see a lot more of the younger goalies take over. But this will be the last truly dominant season from Vasilevsky.
Yep. For the Selke, I have Mark Stone of the Vegas Golden Knights. I feel like he's been an elite defensive forward, and it's been recognized for the last few years. I don't know why he hasn't won it before. I don't think he has. And it typically goes to a center just because there's a little more, categories that you can put towards that, face-off percentage, stuff like that. Mark Stone doesn't have that. But, if Vegas is going to be what we've seen from them so far, I feel like they're going to get a lot of recognition when it comes to the award and voting, and I feel like Mark Stone is a guy that I like for that award.
Yeah, mine was between him and Ryan O'Reilly, and Ryan O'Reilly has continued to disappoint offensively, which shouldn't factor into it at all, but it's something that people look at as just how valuable they are, and then how defensively valuable they are for Selke, and I have also Mark Stone winning it, just because of who he's going to be able to play with all year, and just the opportunity he has to just be a great player.
Mm-hmm. And then for the Richard, currently the goals leader, I have him holding on to it for the season. Connor McDavid winning his first Richard. I don't know. This is a pick that, if you know me, I like to make just because I feel like one of these years McDavid's bound to just be like, fuck it, I'll win it. You know?
I can see that.
And, just score goals and goals and goals and goals. And with the slow start to Matthews, I feel like I want to pick someone else, and McDavid's probably the safest one.
Yeah, for me, it's Draisaitl. Over Matthews, over McDavid. I think as the season goes on, McDavid's going to just pile on assists, and I think Draisaitl is going to really be that goal scorer for them. But, it's hard to pick either. It's easy to pick either guy just because they're so talented, and McDavid can score literally any night he wants to, it feels like. Yeah. And Matthews having a slow start to the year, it always feels like he can go off and score 60 in a season, but so far he's been really slow, and I don't know. I don't see it with just the Leaf situation going into the year. I don't see him being able to focus in like that.
Yeah. For the Art Ross, leading the league in points, Connor McDavid. I feel like it's hard to dispute that. It's McDavid.
I'm going McDavid as well.
And then leading into my heart, I feel like if he's got the Art Ross and the Richard, it's going to be hard not to give McDavid the Hart Trophy. He's just a safe bet because he's Connor McDavid, because he's the best player in the league. It's easy to bet on the best player in the league. And, yeah, I mean, I don't really, see anyone else coming close. Just I feel like Kaprizov's a good bet, maybe.
Yeah, would Kaprizov be your runner-up?
I'd say, I don't know. I feel like it's always two people you'd expect, and then there's a weird runner-up like Igor last year, and then Panarin. Not that he's not that caliber, but people weren't expecting Panarin to be a Hart Trophy nominee a few years ago. Pasternak, though, early season, he's been really good for the Bruins, so him as another candidate. I just think Bruins are a bit more of we're a team kind of thing, so it's hard to give them the MVP. But yeah, I don't know. I've got McDavid winning that trophy.
Because I also have McDavid, so I'll just more talk about my runner-up, who I have Barkov. He's going to, recover more from the slow start, and I think him and Matt Tkachuk can really form a connection, just playing very good defensive hockey, good gritty hockey, and scoring a lot of goals and getting a lot of assists. I think it could be Barkov.
Yeah. I think Barkov's good
as a runner-up. It's McDavid, though.
Yeah. I don't know. And then with the Avalanche, it's also hard to kind of justify because, they have a great defenseman and a great forward. So, they both make their impacts. It's hard to say who's more valuable to the team. You can say the same with the Oilers with Draisaitl, but I just think, McDavid's just going to be head and shoulders above the rest of the league. And realistically, you have the Oilers as first in the Pacific. If they have a crazy good, regular season, I feel like, McDavid's going to be given that award.
Yep.
So, this is just the start of the season. There's only been, I think the most a team has played is 11 games. Yeah, the Leafs. The Leafs, Capitals, and Penguins and Rangers have played 11 games, so 1/8 through the regular season, but we're gonna have a lot more content coming your way. We're excited to go through the season with you guys, talk about all the storylines, throughout the season, because right now when we talk about the storylines, hypothetically we're just gonna expect the superstars to do what they do, but who's gonna be the Jeff Skinner and come in and score 40 goals in a random year, and who's gonna be that goalie who goes on the crazy win streak, puts the team on his back. We're gonna be here for all of it, covering the NHL, NBA, NFL for the upcoming seasons, and we're really excited here at the Sports Podcast.
So yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.